Might as well just start. Hey guys, this is Coach Flo from RocioFlores.com. Welcome to my self series. Normally, the way I make videos is I sit down and try to come up with 5 points to talk about. I write them on a sticky note, and then from there, it kind of becomes like a script. This is what I want to say, this is what I want to emphasize. I don't write it out like I'm going to say this and then read it out. I just say it the way it sounded in my head. And so I want to do something different with all of these new videos. I want to be more myself, make some jokes. I don't know how it's going to go yet. We'll see. I had come up with a bunch of jokes for that video I tried to make a while back, and it was awesome. Like, I loved it. I did my makeup, I did my hair, I had a really pretty background. I did all this freaking work, and then it's gone. This is me redoing it. It took me a while. It took me like a whole month because I moved into my new office. Don't you like it? The only thing that the guys moved into this office were the big things, like the bookcases. Everything else I had to do by myself. My legs are tired. I'm tired. I don't ever want to move anything ever again. This better be the place where I get rich, because if not, I don't know. This is the first video of my self series. Basically, what I want to do is do a full series where I talk about the self, going from all sorts of topics that talk about this concept of self. The topics that I'm going to go over in these first few videos are self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-direction, self-care, God versus the self, and then I'm going to end it with self-love, because all of these are highly talked about subjects. These are concepts that are all over social media. People talk about them all the time. People use them in many different ways. It's always a little frustrating because I myself have been through like the journey of healing, the journey of learning to be myself, of being okay with myself, like all this stuff. Like, I've been through that journey, and it was really freaking confusing because you would read one thing somewhere and you would read another thing another place, and then these people talk about it in this way, people talk about it like this. Everyone's using different definitions, everyone's using different ideas, everyone's approaching all of these topics that are very important topics in very different ways. And because of that, it gets a little confusing. And because it gets confusing, anybody going through this journey is gonna take a little bit longer because they're like jumping around between like, is it this? Is it that? Like, am I doing the right thing? Or they think they're doing the right thing and they're not doing the right thing, etc. Before I begin, I want to invite you to subscribe to my monthly newsletter. There I share the month's blog posts. I talk a little bit about what I've been going through in my own life and how what I learned can help you with your own personal journey. I also send you a ton of health, career, and personal development freebies. The link will be in the description below, so make sure that you get on there. The first topic in this series is self-awareness. There's a lot of other topics that fall into this, like self-idea, right? Like self-actualization,
all of these things.
blah, blah, blah. There's all these different topics, but I feel like a lot of them fit into each other, and so I didn't want to like make them separate videos when I could kind of talk about, there's the topic and then there's things that kind of fall into that same category that if you're not understanding the main topic, then those other ones may be a little harder to understand. The first topic is self-awareness, and I choose this because it's the first step in any self journey, in any kind of inner work, personal development, self-care, self-love. Any of these things, they don't really work if you're not aware of yourself. I mean, that sounds like duh, but you'd be surprised. Like, I was surprised. I mean, used to living in a world where we don't really take into account, we're not aware of the way that we're acting, of the way that we're affecting the world, the way the world's affecting us. We're just like living through each moment, not taking into consideration our role in our lives. Basically, we give up our role. We give up all control. We give up our agency when we're not taking it. And the first step to taking it is being aware of it. This is such a difficult topic. Like, it's so hard to talk to people about it because it's really easy to get defensive because you are in control of your life. Nobody else is. Doesn't sound really good when it has felt your entire life like everyone else has been in control of you. And to have somebody kind of like come in and say, actually you are, sounds like fuck you, you don't know me, you don't know my life. So it's hard to talk to people about it. This actually goes into the topic of self-direction. The reason I want to talk about self-awareness first is you can't take back that control until you're aware of where you don't have it and where you do have it. Other topics that kind of play into self-awareness are going to be your understanding of your self-esteem. Find that a lot of the times people can recognize that they have a low self-esteem or that they have insecurity issues. So they recognize, like, I don't feel good. They just can't see where that not feeling good comes from. Another topic that plays into it is confidence. A lot of confidence, this idea of being confident in yourself or being confident in your world and in general, has to do with being aware of what you can or can't be confident in. I think of all these topics, self-awareness is probably the one that's least talked about, at least outside of things like personal development, self-help, psychology, motivation, all of that. I remember taking a course in college that was about, interpersonal communications, that kind of stuff, and like conflict resolution, and the teacher spent the entire semester talking about mindfulness. You want to know what mindfulness is? It's being aware. It's like being aware of your present moment. Mindfulness is probably a concept that you have talked about or you have heard people talk about, that maybe you've even tried and it's kind of really hard. A huge part of it is that self-awareness of the specific present moment that you're in. Common definitions for self-awareness: to be aware. That makes sense, right? Like, duh, be aware. What does that mean and how do you actually make that happen? Is a very different conversation than just being like, I'm so woke, right? I would say that some common misconceptions are to address this concept of self-awareness from outside of yourself. So it's very, very easy to be woke, to say, oh, all this shit's happening in the world and how dare they do this and how dare they do that and blah, 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 and not be aware of your own personal role in these conflicts and these situations. It's very easy to be woke, to be aware of other people's problems and not be aware of your role in those problems. I think because it's not talked about a lot, I don't think that there are that many misconceptions about self-awareness other than people just not being self-aware. Some considerations to take into consideration, some things to think about are, it's sort of like on a scale. You've got somebody who is completely unaware, and that would be somebody who is living their life just moment to moment, not paying attention to how they're affecting their life. Either they're reacting to the world, they've given up all agency, and they don't believe or think or even question their agency. Then that's their other complete end, which is where a whole lot of us in the personal development world end up. And it's being too freaking aware. We can get to a place where you are thinking all the freaking time about everything. You get over to the end where maybe you start having anxiety. Self-awareness in a healthy concept is somewhere in the middle. And I know that's a little bit hard to think about because it's very easy to be like, how do I know where I'm at? It's not about that. It's not about trying to get to some level of self-awareness or some level of wokeness in the world. It's about being aware of where you are. Let me repeat that. It's about being aware of what is. How to be aware. First and foremost, you gotta recognize the different areas that you can be aware of. Many people have different definitions of health, and so health is not just physical, right? It's mental, emotional, environmental. It has to do with your social well-being, your spiritual well-being, your financial well-being. There are a lot of different areas of your life that play into your life. I think the physical realm is the easiest place to start. For example, if you're just sitting right here, like I am, what are you physically perceiving? So for example, for me, my vision is blurry. I have slight goosebumps. I am feeling a little hungry. I can feel my feet starting to fall asleep. I can feel my heart beating a little fast. So being aware, you just notice what is. Don't start thinking of why. Now you go into mentally. What are the kind of thoughts that you're having? Sometimes it's hard to stop and be like, I just thought this thought. To separate yourself from that is to be aware of that. You are aware of your thoughts when you're able to say, I just thought. The next part would be emotional. Emotions could be saying, I feel sad, happy, I feel excited. Now, when people talk about feelings, they could be talking about emotions, sadness, happiness, anger. Or they could be talking about sensations. I feel tired, I feel pain, I feel hungry. Now you can be aware of your behavior. Behavior would be anything that you are doing. This one's important, especially once you get into like the concepts of self-direction, because a lot of the times it's not so much our feelings and our thoughts that are affecting our life in a positive or negative way. It's our actions. You will be able to change your life so much more effectively when you're able to separate. The other thing to be aware of is your actual environment. I like to call it like the setting. Where are you? What time is it? Who's around you? Later on in the next few steps, once we actually learn about what these things are, how they play together, etc., then you're able to use that information to actually make changes in your life, to figure out what doesn't need to change in your life, just as important as figuring out what needs to change. But you can't do any of that if you're not aware of it. Another step that I think is very important, but that should not be your biggest goal, is to also be aware of other people. I technically would consider who is around you as part of like your setting. So saying like I was with my mom, or I was at my dad's, or I was hanging out with so-and-so. All of those things will matter, especially when you're looking at your patterns and you're looking at yourself and how you change things in your world. Those things matter. Being aware of the other person also will become an important part, especially when you're discovering issues such as conflict resolution, communication, boundary setting. Obviously, all of these things will also play a huge role because they involve other people. And so being aware of other people is also important, but it shouldn't be your main focus, because when you make other people your main focus, you tend to forget to make yourself the focus. And guess what? We can only control ourselves. So we have to be aware of ourselves. Other things to take into consideration would be your actual environment, not just like your setting where you're at in the moment, the environment of like your world. This can include the socio-political status of the world around you,
current events, your culture, your sociology, your race, your finances, your community.
Just in general, things that do or may affect you in any way, shape, or form. Again, being aware of those things is important, especially if you want to be a citizen of the world, like you want to affect the world in certain ways, then you're going to have to know about the world. But again, at its core, self-awareness is about the self. So yes, you are a human being. You are somebody who lives within the world. Your place in the world will matter, but it's about your place in the world. Something that is a very simple task that you can do is to get a notebook. And on that notebook, start paying attention to things that happen in your life. So let's say you have some sort of conflict at work. Write the conflict down. What you want to pay note to is what were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you doing? What was happening? And who else was involved? It's not so much about starting to make some way to fix the issue. It's not about you suddenly write it down and the issue's no longer there. It's all about just being aware of what happened. What you'll notice is that eventually you get to a place where you no longer are having to like write everything down because you notice it in the moment. At first it can be really hard because you are having to kind of do it retroactively. Like it's hard to stop in the middle of nowhere and just start writing what you're feeling. But it is something that you can become more aware of, and it becomes a habit. How not to do it.
How to not?
I should have said do's and don'ts. The first thing, obviously, that I think is really important to pay attention to is that you're not being aware of someone else. Yes, the people around you and the world around you will affect you, and it's important to notice how that effect is taking place. But it's not your job to now suddenly be like, you should be more aware of what you're thinking, and you should be thinking about this, and you should be feeling that, and it's not helpful to you. And it can cause a lot more issues in your life. It's very easy for somebody who just starts and comes into like the personal development world to feel like they know it all and suddenly can change everything in everyone's life. Everyone does it. It's like very normal for people to suddenly be like, I'm the expert. It's because you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that I didn't know this before. And so now you want to help the people in the world. Most people have good intentions, or sometimes they don't, because they want to, say something or do something to someone. They recognize that they've been hurt by that person. Don't create bigger problems for yourself. When you just focus on that awareness, then you're able to actually move on to the next step. Focus on being aware and gathering the information, because it's the information that's going to help you with actually making changes. And before I'm done, before I go, I want to make sure that I tell you that it's okay to struggle. #struggle. There's just so much going on in our world, and there's so much that we don't know how to address, that we don't know how to fix, that we don't even know that we can fix. And that's because we weren't taught how to do it. And it could be a very hard, very scary process to suddenly come into the world and realize I can affect the world. Like I can change. I have control over a lot of things in my life. And it's painful and sad, and it's really hard when you look back and you're like, I made a situation worse. I could have done this, or I shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's really easy to go backwards. It's also very easy to go on the opposite end and imagine all of the things that you will continue to mess up, because it's just impossible to change, right? Like you're just having all these ideas, and it's really easy to just let those ideas take over and give you like loss of hope and just, I get it. It's hard. It is not easy work. Honestly, the people who are like, oh, it's all easy, or people who have never done it or who are not very self-aware, recognize that the work that you're doing is hard. It's painful, it's difficult, and it will continue to be painful and difficult for a a while. And that's okay. Just be aware of that. You don't have to change it. You don't have to affect it. You don't have to like try to do anything to change it. Let it be. The next video that I'm gonna do is on self-acceptance. A beautiful concept, awesome idea. I just wish it was taught in school. Like, I wish more people talked about it, and I wish it was more understood. And there are a lot of other words that kind of come in with it, but I think it's essential for it to be its own. So that's the next topic that I'm going to talk about. Please stay tuned. I am very happy to be doing these videos in a different way. I hope that you like this video. I don't know what it's gonna end up being because right now I'm just filming it. I don't know. I might just throw in some jokes. I might just be more me. Don't judge me too much. I feel like I put a lot of info in my videos. It's just y'all aren't watching. So I gotta make you like laugh or something to make you like them. So that way you can learn. Gosh, just please watch the next video in the series on self-acceptance. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video. I hope that you both liked the video itself, but also what you learned from the video and that you're able to then use it in your life. I think self-awareness is a really cool tool. If you're now woke, you're self-woke, then drop a comment. Let me know what you're thinking, what your process is. If you've come across this idea before and you either didn't understand it or understand it differently now, or if you never heard of it, what you're thinking now. I would be very happy to talk to y'all about this stuff, so make sure that you do your little social media thing. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Goodbye. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it useful, please like it, comment, react, subscribe, text, email, whatever it is that you do online. Thank you and have a blessed day. Goodbye.